On the phone, it is a pleasure to welcome back to the program. He's the, what are you, the executive director of the Progressive Change Campaign Committee, the PCCC, Adam Green. Are you the executive director?
I'm the co-founder, actually standing here with my fellow co-founder, Stephanie Taylor.
Co-founder, but you guys don't have like any other title beyond that?
You know, we hang loose, my friend.
All right. That's the way. That's what it's. That's the progressive change. No right. Fancy titles. Adam, I want to talk about the polling that the Progressive Change Institute did. It is a fascinating poll. I don't know if you have this. These results are online at all, but
they are. I didn't realize that's what we're talking about today.
Well, I understand.
I came with a poll with a movie recommendation, actually. Is that wrong?
No. Well,
Juno.
I mean, Juno.
Really?
Little late.
Really?
Seen it. Well, I want to talk about that polling. It's fascinating, and we'll link to it. But let me first get your response to the State of the Union last night, just in broad strokes.
Well, it was certainly an improvement. You know, past State of the Unions have put the entire progressive world into panic, causing us to waste months of our lives scrambling to defend Social Security from cuts and stuff like that, trying to bolster the public option when the president didn't quite give it a proper voice. And this one was certainly a step in a new direction, a big step in the direction of economic populism, you know, with the exception of his hat tip to free trade. You know, by and large, my general sense is that this State of the Union is kind of the capstone in our side winning the rhetorical fight, and somewhat the fight for the battle of the soul of the Democratic Party rhetorically when it comes to Wall Street Democrats versus Elizabeth Warren style economic populist Democrats. The big issue I see going forward is separating those who only engage in economic populist rhetoric because they realize that that's where the country is and it's a smart political move, and those who actually put forward big, bold, progressive ideas, things that will actually be game-changing in millions of people's lives. I feel like that's the new division, kind of small ideas versus big ideas.
Interesting. And, I mean, what did you make? I mean, this is what I was just saying before we spoke, is that not only did President Obama come out and address wealth inequality, you had Rand Paul and Ted Cruz doing it too. And, this gets to your point in terms of, I guess, whether or not it's just about the rhetoric, because the Democrats seem poised to run on this, in the spring of 2014, and then it all went away, I guess, presumably because their donors didn't like it. I mean, it seems to me to be convenient for Democrats right now to take these positions. How do we get a sense going into 2016, who's really, what are the mile markers that we should be looking for going forward?
Yeah, so a couple things. So one is, do they actually put forward specific proposals, opposed to just saying we need to help people's wages and help the middle class? But really, it's in the specifics. So first, just to give you a sense of scale, the president's tax proposals that were leaked before the State of the Union, that were talked about a bit in the State of the Union, were to the tune of $300 billion over 10 years, $30 billion a year. That's actually not a game-changing amount, right? In our poll that you referenced, the Progressive Change Institute, the PCCC sister organization, the poll asked, would you support $400 billion a year in major infrastructure jobs spending, right? And that was overwhelmingly popular, right? Even among Republican voters, that polled through the roof. And just there, it's like one small kind of down payment on the type of scale that one could contemplate and it tests well. But there's a real question about, will Democrats embrace it?
Let me just give the numbers on that, because I was really struck by that. This is the question: invest $400 billion per year in a major new jobs program that would create 4 million jobs by making long-term investments in rebuilding our transportation infrastructure, expanding internet access, increasing clean renewable energy. Democrats 91%. I'm not shocked by that, although that's a pretty high number even for Democrats. Republicans, 55% to 28%, with 16% I don't know or neutral on it. Independents, 61% to 28%, with 10% who are neutral on it. I mean, these are, this is pretty, this is a no-brainer.
It's not close. It's not even close, right? So, this was actually an idea that was submitted to a process that the Progressive Change Institute ran for the last month called the Big Ideas Project. And it was submitted by Damon Silvers, the policy director of the AFL-CIO. And surprise, surprise, thousands of people voted for it. It made it into the top 20, and we put it in the poll. My guess is that most Democratic pollsters aren't asking questions like this, right? So part of our challenge, and really what the PCCC and the Progressive Change Institute and others will be doing for the next 2 years, is thrusting big, bold, progressive ideas like this into the center of the national debate. One kind of benchmark along the way is making these ideas credible by the end of 2015, such that candidates will actually run on them in 2016 and feel empowered to make the case to voters, actually educate the voters in 2016.
And we should say we should
2017. That's our next big governing opportunity.
And we should say that this is a poll of likely 2016 voters. So this is not a we saw this dynamic in the off-year election where Democrats would win if you actually had a different if you had a 2016 turnout. I mean, this is likely voters. So this is not just registered voters, it's not just average people. This is everybody who's likely to vote, which makes it that much more powerful when you hand this over to a candidate running either for re-election or for election the first time. And this is what was interesting. There was an interesting piece that Brian Beutler had in the New Republic where he talks about David Frum writing that this is that President Obama's speech, to the extent that it went in the right direction when we talk about populist policies, was a way of hemming in Hillary Clinton, who is by all accounts going to be running in 2016. And by hemming her in, not letting her move to the mushy middle. Whereas Brian Beutler suggests that, look, you've got a campaign that's going to be run by someone who's coming out of the Obama White House. This is the camps between President Obama and Hillary Clinton's potential campaign are quite close. That this is him setting up her election. To the extent that, I mean, which one do you subscribe to? And to the extent that you subscribe to Beutler's theory, how heartened are you by that Clinton may be running on that message?
Yeah. So again, I'm pretty sure that she and others will try to run on something that sounds like an economic populist message. And my understanding is that so far her rhetoric is going in the direction more of let's lift wages for middle-class families than challenging corporate power and breaking up the big banks and stuff like that. So there might be some pressure needed to move her there. But again, I think we're winning the rhetorical war. We're winning the war for the direction of the Democratic Party, the trajectory. The question is, how quick can we move? How big can we make the ideas? One thing that President Obama did that was immensely helpful, possibly accidentally, to some of our plans, is offering free community college. Elizabeth Warren made lowering interest rates for students a mainstream Democratic position. Her last bill on this got 58 votes in the Senate, meaning that it's now time to think bigger and go beyond interest rates into, how do we truly make college, the base college costs, more affordable? And the folks at Demos have been doing great work on the idea of debt-free college. That should be the national goal. Anybody who goes to college should be able to leave there debt-free so that really progressive people don't have to go into a corporate world to pay off their loans, so that people aren't saddled with debt for decades of their life. And we were thinking about how are we going to get this into the mainstream this year? Well, when he offered free community college, that really pumped oxygen in the room and set up us and Democracy for America and Daily Kos within 24 hours to launch a big campaign on this. Now, I'll say that we ended up polling both of these questions in the poll that you referenced. And, free college education was very popular, pretty much 2-to-1 popular. let's see, it was
71% supported the idea of debt-free college. You asked the question twice, and I want to ask you about that. As to what in the first question, 71%, 19% opposed. Democrat, Republican, and Independent all supported it by substantial majorities. And you asked it again. I mean, the first time you asked it was provide federal financial assistance to states to make public colleges and universities more affordable so that all students have access to debt-free college education in America. And so that does what? That basically provides, how is that different than provide financial incentives to state colleges to ensure they all have debt-free?
So real quick, two things going on here. So there's actually three questions in the mix here. One is testing free community college versus debt-free college at all public universities. And the big takeaway there is that while free community college was popular by 63 to 27, debt-free college at all public universities was popular by 71 to 19. That pretty much moves our advantage from a net 36 points to a net 52 points, basically a 16-point pickup. So the message to the Democrats and progressives there is going bigger is actually more popular. You don't lose people by going in a more progressive direction. You gain people. The second thing that you're addressing is actually some message testing that we did, not just on this question, but on multiple questions, including fair trade and including how we frame some various tax cut issues. And I encourage people to go to the poll, and I'll tell them the link in a second. But what we want to do is, ask the same exact policy two different ways. One, federal financial assistance to the states to make public colleges and universities more affordable. That was intended to be a little bit more wonky, to be a little bit more blatant about how this is federal spending. And our guess was that that one might lose out a little bit. The second one was just provide financial incentives directly to the colleges. Now, as it turns out, the one that was just upfront about the fact that this is new federal spending, giving it to state government to subsidize public universities, that did 14 points higher. So it's really useful as a rhetorical message for anybody who wants to talk about this to look at the polling we've done on this and other issues and both see what issues are popular but also how to talk about them. And let me just give people a link so they have it. Again, this is at the Progressive Change Institute website, thinkbig.us. And then if you just do /polling, you'll see a PDF to very detailed polling results.
All right. We'll obviously put a link to that at majority.fm. And so I mean, I guess the next big fight, and I spoke to Senator Bernie Sanders about this, but I'm curious as to what, from your perspective at the PCCC, the big fight. I mean, you mentioned early on that this is one of those State of the Unions where progressives don't have to run around and play defense. There is one area, it seems to me, that's coming up where defense is going to be necessary, and that is on this notion of fast track authority. Give me your sense of what you guys are anticipating happening. And I know you polled transparency in trade negotiations. That was 66%. There's, I don't know if that one with, I guess, a plus 44%. But I mean, what about what's actually in this thing? I mean, what is the best way to stop this?
Yeah, so we polled two things. One was transparency, but even more, that was, making sure that corporations aren't writing this behind the scenes, and more transparency won 66 to 23. But the main thing that I would point you to, and the main way we should be talking about this, is the question that says we should replace free trade deals that cost America in jobs with fair trade agreements that force our trade partners to respect America protections for workers and the environment, and that will protect jobs and higher wages in America. 75 to 11% popular, even among Republicans, 73% to 12%. So it's a winning message talking about fair trade, and that's what we have to talk about. We have to talk about the stuff that Obama acknowledges, which is that past trade agreements ship jobs overseas, and make any politician who ever wants to vote for any kind of trade agreement demand, have a line in the sand that says only if we have extraordinary protections for the high standards that America has set for ourselves in terms of worker protection and wages. So that's kind of the messaging point. The how is a trickier issue, partly because this is such a processy question and most people aren't engaged in it. But this is where I think a lot of local organizing will come into play. There's some Republicans that represent some union-heavy district or manufacturing-heavy districts where we really need to organize, in their districts. And we're going to be doing a ton of meetings on Capitol Hill the next couple of weeks, and we're going to be talking specifically about these issues, trying to pretty much, put the win in the sail of Democrats who are thinking about fighting on this, so that they really kind of fight with backbone and know that there's a large section of the public that will fight by their side.
I mean, this is one of those things. This is sort of like the classic Joe Lieberman situation where there was a couple of votes where Joe Lieberman would vote for cloture. In other words, basically short circuit a filibuster and then vote against the bill and trumpet that he voted against it. This seems to me to be one of those situations when we talk about fast track. I mean, because fast track, no fast track is very difficult to get people who are not paying a lot of attention to what's going on involved in. And by the time you get to actually voting on the bill, like Bernie Sanders said, you need 10 less votes essentially to pass the thing in the Senate. And that's where those people who are on the margins can say, well, I'm going to vote against it, but they voted for fast track authority, which is basically an abdication. I mean, give me your sense of, how do you, because it strikes me the way to fight fast track is simply to go on to Sean Hannity's thing and go, are you really going to give President Obama this dictatorial authority over trade? I mean,
that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, no, I mean, we're really on the front end of kind of thinking strategically about this. But I think the point you just made is actually pretty good. Strategically, you're right that fast track, again, it's the most wonky fight. It's processy. It's the hardest to engage people around, but it has the biggest consequence, both in terms of lowering the threshold of votes needed in the Senate, and also, you have the most leverage if you're in the middle of a negotiation. You have if you're trying to kill a bill when it's a final bill and it's just an up or down vote, right? And that's basically what fast track does. It says take it or leave it. There's no chance to change it. That's something we saw with the healthcare fight as well, when people who wanted the public option couldn't vote against the final healthcare bill. We didn't have much leverage to change it. So I will keep you up to date, on what we learn on Capitol Hill the next 2 weeks as we do a very robust set of meetings. But I think you're appealing to the right strategy is actually pretty intriguing.
Okay, well, there you have it, folks. Adam Green, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've got to run. You have constant meetings.
Got to run. Again, let me just say the link for folks. thinkbig.us/polling is where you can get the polling that we talked about. And one last thing before I go, I know that we've talked about this on the show before, how I'm a dues-paying member of the Majority Report, and I wanted to make an offer to folks out there.
Ooh.
The PCCC has a number of stickers that say, I'm from the Elizabeth Warren wing of American politics. And the first 10 people who sign up for a subscription to the Majority Report and tweet at me, at Adam Green, saying that you got it, we will send you a free Elizabeth Warren wing sticker. So if that's any extra inducement, do it today before other people beat you to the punch.
Wow.
Looks like I'm going to have to become a member of the show.
There we go.
I just got Matt to finally sign up.
This is the first time I've actually listened to anything that's been said here in months.
Wow.
It's a great idea.
We heard free stickers and we popped up.
There you go.
Elizabeth Warren wing of American
She's from
politics.
Massachusetts, right?
Put it on your laptop, put it on your car, tweet at Adam Green, let me know, and we'll send you one of those.
Sweet.
Thanks a bunch, Sam.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Always a pleasure. Adam Green, folks, and that is thinkbig.us/polling. We, of course, will link to that at majority.fm.